Hello everyone, welcome to the guideline for assignment 6. Today our main focus is going to be on Vlookup functions and maybe lookup functions in general, we'll see. But one thing I did notice is that a lot of you did not even try to do exercise 1. Like right away you skipped exercise 2. I don't know, maybe right away you tried to look on the Excel and you saw, oh, these are the questions, so you tried to solve them, which isn't wrong, but you did skip exercise 1, which has to do with conditional formatting with formulas. So always make sure you go through the instructions, read them carefully so you don't skip anything. Okay, so open sheet lookup 1 and we want to do the following. Add the necessary conditional formatting rule that applies a light blue fill to item whose category is vehicles. Okay, if you're an item, if you have or if you're of type vehicle, you have to get colored. Now, very careful. They're not telling us to do this. They're not saying go to conditional formatting and highlight the cells that are equal to vehicles, kind of like how we used to do before. This isn't what we want to do. And I misspelled vehicles, so always make sure with this stuff you're not misspelling. So I go ahead and I choose something red in the font color, I don't know, some blue. Oops, I changed the font, they want a background. But this isn't what they want. What they're actually saying is, if this is a vehicle, the item is the one that should actually be colored. So the way that we do that is using formulas. So these are what should get colored blue. I'll go back. I'll select the range that I want to work with. Conditional formatting, new rule. And I want to use a formula to determine how I should format. And the formula is going to be, imagine you're writing the condition of an if statement, but not the actual if statement. So I'll start with the equal sign and I'll say, hey, this one, I want it to equal vehicles. And the way that it works, again, you have to imagine, remember when we used to write one formula and we drag it down? You have to imagine it like this, like you're writing it for the first cell and Excel is going to drag it down on its own. But if it drags it down on its own, notice how right now I'm fixing D4. When you choose something, it's going to fix it automatically. So if I press, let me first choose some format or nothing will happen. Like right away, right now, if I press OK and I haven't set a format, I won't notice anything difference. If you do something like that, make sure you go to Manage Rules and edit the old rule. Don't keep adding rules on top of rules or things might mess up. So I'll go to the fill this time and choose some sort of blue. Press OK, OK. Now you'll notice everything got colored blue. Why? Again, if I go back to the rule that I made, I'm saying fixing D4 should equal vehicles. So like if we imagine it's being dragged down, for each cell, I'm comparing if this is vehicles, I'll color this cell. If this is vehicles, color this cell. I'm always checking if D4 is vehicles, I'll color the individual cells. But no, what we want is remove those dollar signs and just say D4. Press OK. And now only if your category is vehicle, then you'll get colored. Cool. The next one. Conditional formatting rule that gives the item numbers whose available quantity is greater than 30 some color. Okay. So if your available quantity is greater than 30, the item numbers should be given the conditional formatting. So again, here's the quantity and here's the item. Same as before, I'm selecting the item. New rule, go at the bottom. What's my formula this time? Oh, I'm checking if this guy is bigger than, what's the number they said? 30. And since they said only greater than, they didn't say greater than or equal, we'll just say strictly greater than. Now to make it easier, so not every time you have to remove the dollar signs, you can just write the cell yourself. And for the formatting, what do you want? Bold, dark, red font. So the font, bold, and dark red. press OK, and here we go. That should be it. All right. Here's from, I think the screenshot starts from here, from the 1995 pickup. So I always say make sure you refer to the screenshot to make sure your answer is correct. This screenshot is starting maybe a bit lower than usual. So from 195, like you notice the 184, the 135, they're right here. Moving on. Add the necessary conditional formatting that applies a bold font and dotted pattern to the item which has the highest price received. Same as before, I'll select all of this. New rule, I'll only highlight it with the dotted pattern and make it bold if it was the highest price received. Okay, if I go ahead and say equals. So what do I really want? Now, lots of ways somebody might have made a mistake here. They want the max, right? So I could have said equals max, and I open the brackets, and I give it the whole range of price received. Okay, say something like this, and let me remove the dollar signs for a moment. We'll go to the format, fill, dotted pattern. They want bold as well. Okay, press OK. Notice how almost everything, or maybe even everything, got dotted and bolded. Why? Even though only the max should get, like only one item is gonna be that, because there should only be one max. So unless we have two items that have the same highest number, only one should get colored, or only one should get the format. So what went wrong? Manage rules, go back to edit. I never really wrote a condition. All I wrote was equals some number. Now, in case you're not familiar, in Excel, whenever you write a condition that's a number, usually that's going to be true. So like if I write some random number and I say yes, then I say no for the false condition, I'll get yes. So the condition was true. So here I just say the formula that I've been writing. However, let's change it up a bit. Now, even if that's number something negative, so like minus, minus whatever, it's still gonna say yes. However, the only time it's gonna say no is if you use the number 0. Does that make sense? Any number is usually gonna be understood as true by Excel, except for the 0, it's false. So the reason here everything's being colored is because, well, your condition is literally equal some number, so that's always going to be true. What you want is to say H4 without the dollar signs should equal the max, right? It's like before, imagine you're dragging it down. If the cell equals the max, that's when I color or that's when I give the formatting of the item. If I press OK, press OK. All right, a lot less have been given the format, but there are still some items being formatted. Why? Again, when it's being dragged down, this range isn't fixed. So when you drag down, you must have seen this in a previous assignment, right? If you don't fix this range, when you go down, it's gonna go down with you every time you go down as well. So to fix that, one last time, manage rules. Notice how every time I'm going to manage rules, edit rule to fix my mistakes. I'm not adding a new rule every time because that would mess everything up. Okay, edit this. If you do that, by the way, like you add a bunch of rules, you can always go to manage rules and delete the unnecessary rules. So edit rule, I'll fix the dollar signs. We only really need to fix the dollar signs for the rows because we're only changing the rows. But let's just put everything, that's okay. Now only bulldozer is gonna get highlighted because it is the max. or you can just check the snapshot of the solution. Okay, now we can actually try to do exercise 2, which actually has our lookup functions. I think mainly we're gonna be needing the Vlookup and probably the Hlookup for exercise 3, but we'll see what we can go. We also have match and index, but those will probably be for the next lab. Okay, now since they're the same questions, we can just focus up here. But as usual, I'll check the snapshot of the solution here to make sure my answer is fine. What is the quantity available of item number V106? What's the quantity available for number 106? Now, again, I noticed some of you might have went and actually tried to look for the item number 106 somewhere to grab its cell. Like, this is what I'm saying. Some of you said, oh, equals Vlookup. You went and found 106, which is an A13. Then you have to give it the table, which is all of this. Column index is going to be 2 because where's the quantity available that I'm getting? 1, 2. It's in the second column. Finally, I'll say false for exact match. Now, before I mention the not mistake, but like the danger you guys might be doing, let's explain the Vlookup. So I'm looking for A13, which is the item 106. I'm looking for it in this table. And with Vlookup A13 or 106, I'm going to be looking for it in the leftmost of my table. So when you choose your table, you have to make sure the leftmost column does have the key you're looking for, the lookup value. Then you choose which column you actually want your information from. Like if I press enter, I'll get 5, which is in the screenshot. That's the correct answer. But what's the problem with this? Specifying A13, like you still got the wrong answer. You won't lose marks, I think. But notice what you did. First, you had to go and actually look for 106, and you're wasting time by doing that, searching for 106. And what if A13, what if the location of 106 changes in the table? Like, what if 106 is now here, and this is now some different number? Notice 106 right now, its quantity available should be 25, but you're still saying 5. Why? Because you fixed this cell. Now, sometimes fixing or choosing a reference of a cell is good, but not in this case. It would be better if you just say 106. And no, it's 5. Now, if 106 changes, if it becomes this, and this changes, notice how it's saying 25 this time. Okay. All right. Now, important remark, I think if we put 106 in a string, yeah, it might not work. Sometimes when you're looking for something, you want to put it between quotations to mean it's a text. But when it's a number, sometimes you just want to write a number as it is. What is the category of the item router? So this is the same issue as before. Some of you went and looked for router and referenced it. Why just say equals Vlookup? That's the whole purpose of Vlookup so you don't have to go and look for where router is, right? Like imagine you had thousands and thousands of items. You're not gonna go look for them. So I'm gonna look for router in the table, and again I'm gonna start my table from the leftmost column that actually has router. And now, how big should my table be? I want the category. So only this much is necessary. Like, oh, this is the column that has the key. This is the column that has the value that I want. I could choose more. I could choose the whole table, the whole rest of it. But that's not really necessary. Like, I'll still say 2. I'll still say false for exact match. So like 1, 2. Like, I don't need the 3, 4, 5, 6. That's why I usually just choose as much as I need. So office equipment. Now, what does false mean? It means I'm exactly looking for the word router. It's important to write false in these questions, because if we write true, I'm not sure if the answer will be different. Yes, it is. Now I'm getting landscaping. I'll Ctrl-Z to undo. It should be office equipment. Why does that happen? We'll explain it when we actually want to write true. Okay, is the item with the highest starting price sold? Is the item with the highest starting price sold. So this is asking for a question. First let me try and look for that. Look for if it's sold or not. So I'll say equals Vlookup. I'm looking for the highest starting price. I'm checking if it's sold. Well, what is the highest starting price? It's the max of the range that has starting price, right? That's the value I'm looking for. Again, you don't go and actually get the value. This is what you do. You reference it. Now the table, I'll just choose it to have everything. Rest. Now I know I mentioned before, since I want to check if it's yes or no, if it's sold, I only need to choose this much, right? I don't need to choose the whole thing. But it's actually going to be better that I choose all of it, and as you'll see in a moment. Okay. What's the column index? 2. What's the lookup? False for exact. I get yes. Now, I don't need... Now, usually they're asking me a question, right? Like, is it sold or not? I don't need to put it in an if statement because the lookup value itself is like yes or no. Had the lookup value been some number, then yes, I would have to check if that number is, for example, bigger than 0. But since itself is a yes or no question, this is fine. Now in this part, show the received price if sold. So this confused a lot of you. Not sure why. All they're saying is, hey, if this was sold, show me what the received price was. Like if the most expensive item was sold, just show me what for what value was it sold for. Now, let's assume it was sold. Let's assume it was sold, and I just want to get the received price. All you really have to do is copy the same function and paste it here. You're already looking for the max starting price. The only difference now is instead of getting me the yes or no, you're going to get me the max. Or sorry, get me the for what value was received. So instead of 2 here, I'll put 3. And there it is, 17,664. Here it is. Is there confusion here? Like, you already wrote the formula that looks for the high starting price and gets me the yes or no. Just copy paste it, and instead of saying 2 column, the 3 column to get its received price, right? Because all of this record belongs to the max starting price. You're just checking off for what was it sold instead of was it sold. Now, of course, it looks a bit different. No, it doesn't look any different. Now, however, this might be a bit nitpicking, but they did say show the received price if it was sold. So here we might actually need to use an if statement, because if this was no, you're still using the function that gets you the price. Like maybe it'll say 0, but that's not what they want. So I'll Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z. So this time I'll actually say equals if. What's your condition? Just check if this guy is yes. If it is yes, you'll get the price. Otherwise, you'll simply say something like, oh, it wasn't sold. Because now, when you do look for the yes or no, imagine for some reason it was no. You'll say not sold. So it's something like this. I'll go back to here. I'll say no, or let me zoom out a bit. Okay, here it is. So I'm going to say 2 things. I'm going to say no. So now I'm getting not sold and no here. And like you'd imagine, oh, if you weren't sold, like the price received was 0. So Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z. Had I not put the if statement here, like if I only kept the Vlookup, if this changed to no, this changed to 0, you're saying no, but then you're getting me the price received, even though they didn't ask for that. And that might be nitpicking, but like to me, this feels like the best way to solve it. What is the name and type of item number 115? Now, something interesting. A lot of you know that you might have taken the idea or of adding an extra column, right? Like some of you might have saw this in class or whatever, where you sometimes you have to add an extra column to solve certain questions. And you're right, sometimes we do need to do that, but usually we need to do that if you have two conditions that are in the same location. What do I mean by that? Like if you have two vertical conditions, like, oh, I want quantity available to be bigger than something, and I want the category to be certain something. Or if I have two horizontal conditions, if the table was horizontal, like we'll see in this last page, then yes, you'd need to do that extra column or extra row. But in this case, I don't have two conditions. They're saying what is the name of item number 115 and what is the type of 115. They want two pieces of information, but there's only one condition. Like imagine the question was this. What is the name of item 115? It's similar to the first question. Yes, you're getting a piece of information for the item number. Control Z. What if it was this? Same thing, one condition, 115, you're getting its type now instead of its name. So it's one condition, two values. How could we solve this? Well, just break it down. First, get me Vlookup the name. So I'll say, choose this whole table. You don't need to, but hey, let's just choose the whole thing. Whoops, I first gave the table. I should put what I'm looking for. So I'm looking for 115 in this table. Column index is, so we want the name, 1, 2, 3. And false for exact match. I get this name. I can check real quickly. Yes, that part is correct. And I'll actually notice they want space, dash, dash, space. We'll worry about the space in a second. But now, okay, I got this. Now I can concatenate it. So this is what we want to do. We want to concatenate it with the rest. So Vlookup 115. Now instead of looking for 3, I'm looking for 1, 2, 3 type, which is in 5. Okay, so pickup maintenance. We need some extra space in between, so I'll add an extra and then between quotations, space, dash, dash, space. Okay. Remember that if you put spaces here, they don't make a difference because like this is just white space. However, if you put space between, first let me show you that these white spaces don't make a difference. But if you put white spaces here, they do make a difference. So usually between quotations, anything you write, symbols, etc., they will all get carried there. Control Z to undo. Control Z again. But of course, if I put spaces here, it does make a difference. Like if you're putting it between a cell name or rows, they do make a difference. They do make a difference, like they give you an error, not like you'll get extra spaces when you press enter. Okay, is the total price of this van greater than the other truck? Just break the question down. This seems like a really big formula. Break it down. Get me the total price of 1987 van greater. Now I'm assuming they mean the price received here. So let's see the Vlookup of, this is where the item starts, all the way here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the price received is going to be in 6. And like before, I forgot to type first what I'm looking for. 190.87 van. See how much easier this is? Like imagine, like I just typed it. Imagine if I actually have to go and look for it. What's the purpose of Vlookup if I actually have to go and look for it myself? So if this van, I'll say false. So I got its value for 14559. Now in another cell, I'll write the other one. I'll just copy paste it because it's the same thing. The difference is instead of this van, I'm going to be looking for that truck. Okay, so these are the two values. If I check if this is greater than this, I should get truck. Oh, so the answer is no, like no. Is this bigger than that? No, the truck is bigger. So I like to do this because I can see the numbers and I can like that's a way of double checking that my answer is correct. So now I'll say equals if. I'll simply, hey, check. Is this bigger than this? If it is, I'll say yes. If it's not, I'll say no. Because it seems they only want that straightforward answer. And here it is. That's a no. I could have written it all in one formula. That's completely fine. And actually, that's what I would have actually done. I would have actually written it all in one formula, like this. So I'll copy this part here, and then I'll get the other part. This is basically what we did. Instead of it being one long formula, we split it. So this is what you had to do if it was one formula, right? Still getting a no. However, if you like, imagine you wrote a big formula and you got something wrong, just copy, paste the conditions like I have done here outside and see what your mistake was. Right? Like maybe you'd see, oh, there was something that I wrote wrong here. That's messing it up. Okay. Exercise 3. Is there an exercise 4? Yes, there is. Open the lookup 2. Okay, so you could read through the questions. I'm pretty sure you remember them. But essentially, we wanna use these two tables to answer these two columns. So let's focus on this one: minimum acceptable price. So depending on what category you are at, you're gonna get a certain discount. Like if you're landscaping, you'll get a 15% discount. If you're office, this much, etc., etc. Now I saw some people try to use if statements. Like you'd say equals if. Oh, if you're a vehicles, you will get this much discount times your starting price, etc. Otherwise, if you're not, and you keep going. Now, you might get an answer with that, but that's not the way to go. It's really long, you could make mistakes, and there's a much easier way. And actually, they're telling you to use the table. You're not really using it in the correct way if you do that. So what we want to use is Vlookup. Vehicles. I'm looking for vehicles. Where am I looking for vehicles? In this table. What value do I want? The second. Still false because I want an exact match. Like when I'm looking for vehicles, I want it exactly. Like if I told you, if I asked you what was the discount for vehicles, you'd tell me 5%. I'd ask you how you know that. Well, you'd point with your finger, this is vehicles. And you go here, this is vehicles, and it should take 5%. Like you're literally looking it up. Just write in a formula. D4 is vehicles, look it up in this table, then get its discount value. So that's 5%. Now I want the actual price after the discount. So we'll say 1 minus this times F4. Now there's lots of ways you could have done it. So why did I do it this way? 1 minus, you saw it, right? Like 5% was actually written as 0.05. That's what 5% is. It's 5 divided by 100. So I'm subtracting 1 from that. I'm left with 0.95 or 95%, and I just multiply it with the original value. So we get this. Okay, now if I autofill this, problems will happen. Why? Well, just check. Double click here. Everything seems fine. D4 is vehicles. This is my table. F4 is my starting price. Check the other one. D5 is correct. I do want it to be office equipment. Table has shifted. And if you didn't see it, you can keep trying. Like I usually like to just press somewhere in the middle randomly. I'll see the table is way off. So we actually need to fix our table. Only the rows are necessary, but let's just fix the whole thing. Actually, I'll only fix the rows because that's only the part that's necessary. I'm not copying left or right. Okay, so double check our answers. 38, 72, 45, etc. Seems like it's good. right? Does that make sense? Any problem here? Okay. Let's now do the other one. Similar idea. The difference here is depending on the quantity available, you'll get a certain tag. Like if your quantity available is 2, 2 is less than 5, so 2 should get limited. However, say you are 6. 6 is between 5 and 10, so it should get small, and so on. Now, if I try to do the same thing, so Vlookup, looking for quantity available in this table, and say the column index is 2, range lookup is false. I'll fix the table to make sure it doesn't move. I'm getting an error, and if I copy, I keep getting an error. Because you can't exactly look for 2 here. Like this less than 5, this 5 and 10, this is actually text. You can't tell Excel is understanding it that you're trying to look for 2 in text, and that doesn't work. Now here we actually want to use true to solve this problem. But how could we actually use the true? Now true means approximate value. So what you want to do is, this isn't always the case, but in this scenario, you want to put the lower bounds of each value. So less than 5 is essentially between 0 and 5. So you can put 0 here, 5 here. I keep going down, 10. And here there was a typo. It should actually be between 20 and 80, not 60 and 80. So you put the lower bounds of your ranges. And now my table will actually be this whole thing. And instead of 2, I'll say 3. And we'll see 2 is indeed getting limited. 6 is getting small. 25, for example, 25 is between 20 and 80. It should get large. It does get large. Okay, so why does this work? Well, first of all, again, reading the question carefully, if you had read that, they would have told you first fill in the column of the classification table with the appropriate table or with the appropriate values. Like they're telling you fill this column. They're not telling you right away solve the question. No, fill the column first. Okay, so the way that I already told you the way that I filled it, but why did I fill it like this? How does Excel do it? Well, let's check. 2. Is 2 less than 0? No. Is 2 less than 5? Yes. So you go back and you take limited. Back again, 6. Is 6 less than 0? No. Is 6 less than 5? No. Is 6 less than 10? Yes. So you go back and you take the small. And do you see what I'm saying? Let's maybe set it in other words. Let's use the word greater than instead of less than, because I think it actually does it by using greater than logic. So 2. Is 2 bigger than 5? Yes. I keep going. Is 2 bigger than 5? No. So I go backwards and I take limited. 6. Is it bigger than 0? Yes. Bigger than 5? Yes. Bigger than 10? No. So you go backwards and you take the last true value. One more time for 25. Bigger than 0? Yes. Bigger than 5? Yes. Bigger than 10? Yes. Bigger than 20? Yes. There's nothing else to choose. You'll just take the value of 20. And that's how it goes. You keep checking, are you bigger, 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 until you either hit a no or you reach your biggest value ever. And it's not always we put the lower case or we put the lower bound. Sometimes we might want to put the highest bound. Like imagine it was the values were given in reverse, right? So yeah, make sure you revise the lectures in that matter. And again, the reason I said true, because it's true means approximate match. Like I don't exactly have 2 and 6, and I don't exactly have those values in my table. If you had to have a table like that, it'll have 100 entries. Instead, I have approximate match. Oh, like 6 is between 5 and 10. So it should get small. Now, the reason before when you write true, it might mess it up for router because something similar happens when it's text. In text, it happens in alphabetical order. But since this is not sorted alphabetically, that's when you get problems, right? So it's important that the value you put, they be sorted, either increasing or decreasing, depending on the question. But finally, let's do Vlookup or exercise 4, which is Hlookups. What is the category of 117? Well, equals Hlookup. If you were able to do the lab so far, this should be nothing. It's the exact same ideas, but now you're using Hlookup instead of Vlookup. So 117, again, that's the first row. I only need to go down to the category, which is here. Don't need to take the whole thing. Say table. Oops, I always put the table first. So I'm actually looking for 117 here, and I want the fourth column. I'll say false. So it's just vehicles. All right, so for 117, where are you? It's vehicles. Now usually I like to choose the table as much as I need, unless I know there's gonna be a park right next to it where I just need to change the number. Like here, if you remember, here we only had to really change the numbers, right? Okay, let's do this one. Equals Hlookup. This time binders. Binders are in the item. And we want the type, so only this much. And I wrote the table again. I think I'm used to using match because we already had our lab 7. So with match, you actually write the table first and then the condition. So I'm looking for binders in this table, row index. I maybe should have mentioned this. It's now row index instead of column index. So like, oh, just count the rows. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the fourth one. And false because we want exact. And you start counting the numbers of the rows from where you chose your table to start. Like I'm not starting to count from here, from the item number 1. No, it's from where I chose it. So here, 1, 2, 3, 4, supplies. Check our answers, they're correct. And I think this is everything we have to worry about here. Okay. That's going to be it for now. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.